Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of So Random and Weird. Uh, I'm your host today, Gina,
Hi, and I'm Sarah. Welcome, welcome, everybody.
and I have the topic of paranormal today. And, it's kind of funny. I had to stop by um, McDonald's the other day because I had to get my blood drawn and I needed Um, and I had to fast. I didn't get my blood drawn until noon. So,
Oh,
needless to say, I was starving. So I went to McDonald's, got myself a McChicken with pickles, and I got there just as time of all of the high schoolers coming in. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you tiny little babies. And then I'm like realizing I have tattoos that are older than them.
Mm.
Tattoos that are
You could
older
be
than
their
these
you could be their
children.
mother. We could no, that's what I look at, like, the seniors in high school, like, in when I see, like, the high school marching band, like, at the Effort Affair, march by, and I'm thinking, "Oh my god, that could be my child. That will be my child in, like, 4 years. 4 years, he turns 18. Oh my god. Why? Oh my god." And I know he's still gonna be with me. He's not moving out. He's gonna be with me forever. They both are. I'm stuck. I can't even celebrate 18 because he's gonna be with me. No, but no, I mean, I yeah. I mean, we have classmates who are grandparents.
Mm,
I mean, I'm not
yuck.
saying, that we could be grandparents. I'm just saying, that when they were young, they had children, which, good or bad, I don't know, and now their children have children. So, yeah,
Time has flown by way too fast. It's like
yeah,
it took
yeah.
forever to get to 18, and then
It
all of a
does. It
sudden,
feels like
I'm
it takes
42.
forever. Yeah, it feels like it takes forever to get to 16, 18, and then 21, and then after that, it just seems to, like, zoom. And then when you have ki I was told this, I said they're like 'cause I mean, I did think time kind of went fast. I mean, I felt like, "Oh my gosh, we're already graduating, oh my god." But I remember someone telling me, they're like, "Wait till you have kids. It's gonna go by so much faster." And I'm like, "It's not gonna happen. That can't happen." Time's already going by pretty fast for me. I That's not gonna. Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. Because now, I mean, I'm talking about, like, Tyrion's gonna be 14 in October, and, he's talking about, driving, and he's saving up for a car. Yeah, and get this, his, Lamborghini, whatever car I don't know. It's
Sure.
some donkulous car. I'm like, "Yeah, good luck with that boy." I mean, I'm not killing his dreams. I mean, whatever. He's saving up for a
He
car.
can probably get one that was he can
He
probably get a
should.
Lamborghini if it was at the crushing lot.
Yeah, or if it's like a little Matchbox, sure.
Mhm.
Get a little Matchbox Lamborghini. That's the only time you're gonna be able to afford a Lamborghini.
No, one of those little electric ones for little kids.
Ah, little scooter things. No, I don't know. Yeah, well, he knows these damn cars, like, he's like, "Mom, that's a" whatever it is. I don't know, he'll say the name, and I'm like, "Oh, okay. I have no idea. I don't know." He's like, "Oh, mom, look at that whatever," and I'm like, "Oh, yeah." Mike is in the market for a new car, and so we went window shopping one day for car, check out prices and stuff, and she's like, "Oh, mom, look at that car. That's the one I want." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Look at the price tag, and I'm snickering, inside my head. I'm thinking, "Yeah, boy. Sure. Good luck with that one."
Yeah. And also just a side reminder, like, rate, and review us, that helps get us out to other people as well as get us your stories, because today I'm doing a paranormal story, so I kinda want you guys to send in your paranormal, true crime, weird and crazy ones. You can send it to us on our Facebook or you can send it to our Gmail, which is so random and weird pod at gmail.com. And then we could do a listener story. We can do one every month or however more if we get requested more. So get your requests into us so we
Yeah,
can have some fun with you guys too.
exactly. I mean, we want to hear what you guys say, what you guys think, what you guys experience. We want to hear it, and we want to talk about it, and yeah.
So have you ever heard of the Thera I can't say it because this story takes place in Spain. So the name of the place is called Zaragoza, which is how they would say it in Spain. Everywhere else would say it Zaragoza. So I'm probably just going to stick to the Zaragoza because the Zaragoza is too hard for me with my.
Can see that. Some difficulties. There's no judgment though, friend. Whatever. You do what's easier for you. You're the one that's telling us this.
Well, I'm giving everybody the warning. I'm trying. It just with my space between my teeth just makes it just a bit harder for me to get the in there without sounding like lisping Lisa.
It's all good. No judgments. No judgments.
All right. So to start this off, I want you to picture something for me. It's 6:30 in the morning, September 27th, 1934, in Zaragoza, Spain. You live in a perfectly normal apartment building, second floor, normal neighbors, normal lives, normal stove. The city is waking up around you, and then in the quiet of the pre dawn dark, laugh starts. And it's not a normal laugh, it's not a person's laugh, it's not something you can locate either. And it's maniacal, it's bouncing off the walls, and it fills the whole building, and nobody can tell where it's coming from. Doors open, residents peek out into the hallway, and there's no one there. And then, just like that, it stops. And an eerie silence falls over the building. That was day one. So I'm going to be telling you the story of El Duende de Zaragoza, the Zaragoza Goblin, a voice that lived in an apartment stove for over 2 months, that knew people's names, that could measure things, that survived a military power cut, that got officially blamed on a 16-year-old maid who was not present when it was happening, and that ended by telling a 6-year-old boy he wasn't crazy and then never spoke again. No confession, no device, no explanation. The building is gone now. Pasquale Alcocer went home and never said another word about it. And Spain kind of just moved on. We're going to go deep today. We've got history, folklore, comparisons, conspiracy theories, and forensics, the whole 9 yards. So let's get comfortable and let's get into it. So before we even get into the stove, we need to talk about where and when this happened because that matters. So as I said before, it's 1934, and Spain is the middle of the Second Spanish Republic, a democratic government that came to power in 1931 and is, as of this moment, actively falling apart. Same. The country is split between far left and far right. There are assassinations, there are strikes, there are uprisings. History repeats itself. In fact, in October 1934, literally the same month our story is happening, there was a full scale miners' revolt in the Asturias. Over 30,000 workers went on strike. The government sent in the military to suppress it. The commander of that military response was a general named Francisco Franco. He killed over 1,000 people, many of them civilians, and imprisoned thousands more. 2 years later, that same Franco would launch a coup and plunge the country into a civil war that would kill 500,000 people. Zaragoza in 1934 is not a calm place. It's a city that has just watched tanks roll through its streets. The military academy in Zaragoza had been run by Franco himself before it was shut down in 1931. The people are exhausted, scared, politically volatile. And here's a detail that matters: deeply Catholic in a country that is actively trying to reduce the church's power. Why does this matter? Because when something weird happens in a place like this, at a time like this, the response tells you as much as the event itself. Because here's what happens when a voice starts speaking from a stove in this city. The police come, then the army comes, then the national media comes, then Scotland Yard.
Oh, wait. A stove?
Yes, a stove.
A stove started talking. Interesting. Okay.
And
I'm
it,
assuming in
and
Spanish? I'm
yes,
teasing. I'm teasing. I'm so go ahead. What would a stove say in Spanish? I'm hot. I don't know. Oh, it's so
ay,
hot. Go ahead.
caliente.
Caliente. Muy caliente. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Then
Huh.
a Barcelona radio station tries to broadcast it live. An entire teetering, traumatized country stops and pays attention to a kitchen appliance. I find that genuinely fascinating and a little bit comforting. I mean, I do like to bake when I'm troubled.
Yeah. Huh.
So, but I don't know. A talking stove. I mean, we're not that far off from it.
Well, I
Anyways,
mean, in the 1930s, I mean, one would not expect a stove to talk. Nowadays, I mean, God knows. I mean, anything can talk. You have, AI human beings that are walking around, like, with that actress, whatever it was, who's completely AI, who looks real, and it's really scary. Um, but a stove in 1935 talking? Terrifying,
yeah.
terrifying. And in a deeply Catholic area, one might think it's possessed by the
Mhm.
devil.
Yep. So the address is Gascon de Goteau, number 2 on the corner of Juan Pablo Bonet Street. It's a newer building at the time, 4 stories, 2 apartments per floor. Multiple families live there. On the second floor, the right side, El Segundo Derecha, lives the Palazon family. Antonio Palazon owns the building. His family lives on the second floor. They also employ a maid, 16-year-old girl named Squala Alococer. Blech, I don't know. I too have a last name that nobody can ever pronounce.
Yeah.
So I don't
You can
hold it
call her a
against
nickname.
anybody. She'll just be Pasquala. Anyways,
Sounds good.
so also in the building, the Grijalba family, including a 6-year-old boy named Arturo. Remember him because he becomes important as well. So the building's chimney system is worth understanding. The old wood burning stoves of this era connected to a shared chimney shaft that ran through multiple floors before venting through the roof. So the Palazon stove's chimney was physically connected to the flues that passed through other apartments and out through a roof that, by all accounts, was unusually tall and hard to access. Hard to access. Sorry, people, my brain just might be going on easy mode here soon.
Well, I was gonna say after your test taking today, you're probably just wanting to cruise. Like
And yet here I is, I'm trying to speak Spain
exactly,
Spanish.
and exactly, speaking Spanish, like different languages and yeah.
So, as I said, September 27th, 6:30 in the morning, the building's starting up when it wakes up to a maniacal laughter. No one finds the source, and then life goes back to normal. But over the next few days, always late at night, always the same cackling laugh. It happens again and again and again. Brief, distant sounding, residents almost write it off. And then November 15th, Pasquala, the maid, comes in for the day. Nobody has warned her. She doesn't know about the laughter. She goes into the kitchen to light the wood stove and reaches for it. And a male voice from inside the stove says, "You're hurting me."
Ew, ew, ew. Okay. Hmm. I think I would be sufficiently freaked out. Go ahead.
So Pasquala does what a lot of us would do. She ran. She kills the lights as she goes, and from the now dark kitchen, the voice calls after her, "Light! I cannot see!"
The stove said, "Wait, I cannot see?"
Mhm. The same voice that said, "No, you're hurting me."
That's
So
freaky. So,
so
it's that's okay. So it's having a conversation, so it can't see, but it knew she ran, it knew she left.
the lights turned off. She turned off the lights as she ran. She was fiscally responsible.
Oh. I don't know if I would actually turn the lights on, I think I would just run. I don't think I'd be worried about the lights or anything, I think I would just run, like, your stove is talking to you in a male voice. I mean, that's just freaky in itself. And then saying I can't see, oh, no, no, no. Mm, no.
So she comes out, barreling into the living room where the Palazon family is sitting, listening to the radio. She looks terrified. They all hear it coming from the kitchen. An effeminate, clearly articulate voice. Not a sound, not an animal noise, a voice. And according to Ghost Theory's detailed reporting on the case, the voice had been at it since early morning. Loud cackling laughter at 6:30, then silence for hours, then this, like it was waiting for someone to notice it. The voice, as witnesses described it over the following weeks, had a kind of split personality. Most of the time it was pleasant, conversational, curious, willing to answer questions. It had a sense of humor. It could be warm in a deeply unsettling way, but it could also flip. It would laugh uncontrollably, the kind of laugh that made residents feel physically sick. It would shout, it would threaten. It had opinions, and it had a
It's a
particular
bipolar stove.
fascination.
It's bipolar. Okay. That's bipolar. Yeah, stoves can be bipolar. Oh my god, sorry. I don't wanna trivialize. It's not so that's so weird. Okay, so did you say it had an effeminate voice?
Mm, yeah, so I
Hmm.
guess it was, "You're hurting me,
So
I
that's even
can't
creepier.
see."
That's even creepier. No, that's even creepier.
I think I'll keep
That
that voice.
sounds like that reminds me of, like, an evil child, it's like, like, in that little sing-song playful voice like this. I don't know, to me, even creepier. So,
You'd you'd be running to the church.
oh, I wouldn't be going back. I wouldn't be going back.
Mm.
I would, be, bringing my holy water and, spewing it on the stove, I think. Yeah. Be getting the priest to come in and, we'd be having a Linda Blair moment. We'd be having a Linda Blair moment, like, "Exercise this damn thing right now. Exercise
Instead
it
of pea
right
soup
now."
instead of
Yeah,
pea soup,
no.
it's
No
just
making pea
ashes.
soup on that thing. No making pea soup.
Yeah.
Explode everywhere. God, oh my god, okay. Mm.
Alright, so it had a particular fascination and maybe a fixation is a better word on Pasquala. It called her name repeatedly, laughed when she walked in, went quiet when she wasn't there. For weeks, this is a private family nightmare. The Palazons and their neighbors can hear it. They've tried to find it. They've told a few people, but they haven't called the authorities yet. Because what do you even say? Hello, yes, our stove has started talking. 911.
Yeah, yeah. What do you say to that? "Yeah, my stove is, talking to me." They'd lock you up, let me tell you.
So they wait until mid November. They hold out for almost 2 months, and then they can't take it anymore. So before we get to the police, I want to take a quick detour into what the people of Zaragoza were actually thinking when they heard the word duende, because this is not just a random nickname. This word carries a lot of weight in Iberian culture, and it's fascinating. The word duende literally comes from the old Spanish phrase dueño de casa, which is owner of the house, or sometimes dueño de casa, possessor of a house. So think about that etymology for a second. It's not a visitor, it's not an intruder, it's the possessor, possessed the stove, the one who was already in there. So
So
in
wait
Spanish and Portuguese,
So he's saying he's the owner?
So what it is that the word duende
Mhm,
comes from some old Spanish phrases like dueño de casa, which means
mhm.
owner of the house, or sometimes, probably like on local inflection and whatever, is duen de casa, which is possessor of a house.
So is that referring to him, the entity in the stove, whatever is possessing the stove?
Yes, the word duende.
Okay.
So in in Spanish and Portuguese folklore, duendes are household spirits, somewhere on the spectrum between mischievous imp and genuine supernatural entity. They're not demons exactly. They're not ghosts exactly. They're more like the house having a personality. A
Okay.
duende inhabits the walls, the hearth, the hidden spaces. It can be playful, it can be protective, and it can also be an absolute nightmare to live with. Which kind of reminds me of the, I can't think of it off the top of my head. Um, there is a Slavic um, thing about like a household spirit, and it's kind of like the house grandfather or something like that. And they're a spirit that, it can be mischievous in the house, be it also at the same time, um, not. It'd be like really helpful around the
Okay.
house.
Yeah, so not like a malevolent, entity or anything, but just like can be like a child, like mischievous, fun, helpful, but not like dark and sinister or anything like that. Okay.
hmm
Gotcha. Gotcha, gotcha.
So folklorists describe duendes as spirits that love disorder and mischief. I mean, I can relate. I'm a with being
Yeah.
neurodivergent. I'm totally disordered, and I love chaos. So they move things, they make sounds. In Hispanic folklore of the American Southwest, duendes are specifically associated with bedroom walls, especially the bedroom walls of young children. They live in the hidden interior spaces of a home, make their presence known through unexplained sounds. Now, here's the other fascinating dimension of the word duende. In the art of flamenco, duende refers to something completely different. It describes a heightened state of emotion and creativity that seems to come from outside yourself, an almost supernatural inspiration that takes over a performer. Friend Enrico Garcia Lorca, the great Spanish poet who was alive and writing in 1934, had this whole theory about duende as a creative force. He described it as something with the power and the magic of primitive song, the dark spirit that rises from the soles of the performer's feet. Not cute, not whimsical, raw, and terrifying. When ordinary Spanish people in 1934 heard that a duende had taken up residence in a kitchen stove and started talking, they weren't thinking of a garden gnome. They were thinking of something ancient, something of the house, something with its own rules and its own agenda. The press called it El Duende de la Hornilla, the goblin of the stove. And somehow, that framing made everything worse. So now we'll come back and they have called the police. So let me remind you about the timeline because I think it gets lost sometimes. The voice had been active for nearly 2 months before the authorities were officially called. That's 2 months of this family trying to manage the situation themselves. 2 months of strange laughter in the dark, a maid being terrified in her own workplace, and neighbors gathering to listen to the voice through the walls. The voice is still going. At 5 in the morning, the night the police are finally summoned. Oh, excuse me. At which point it responded by calling the residents cowards for calling them. The officers arrived. They're, of course, professional. They're skeptical. They are there to find the prankster, an open window, and go home. The voice calls them cowards again, and then as each officer enters the building, it says their names, one by one. The
Ew.
officers who have never the officers who have never been to this building, the officers whose names the voice had no logical way of knowing. And then the police begin asking questions. It answers correctly. How many people are in this room right now? It tells them. Correct. At the same point, a mason comes to take measurements of the apartment as part of the investigation. He picks up his tape measure and holds it to the wall. And right before he reads it, the voice calls out the exact measurement. In Ghost Theory's account, it reports the voice said, "Don't worry, it measures 75 centimeters." The mason checked 75 centimeters. In Atlas Obscura's version, drawing from the London Times directly, when a worker mentioned that the chimney opening should be measured, the voice said, "You need not trouble, the diameter is just 6 inches," which is correct again. At this point, the officials search the building, every room, the cellar, the roof, the walls. They find nothing. There's no hidden person, there's no mechanism, there's no prankster crouching somewhere that they missed. And also, it's not like they could have had a speaker
Or a
because
camera system, that's what I was thinking too. This is 1930 whatever, I mean, there's no, like, like, security system or, anything like that, so
yep. And so the Palazon family is relocated to another apartment for the duration of the investigation. And the building becomes an official investigation site. And then the story explodes. The London Times publishes their first piece on November 24th, 1934. They title it "A Police Spanish Ghost." They call it the Saragossa Ghost because they couldn't even spell the city right, but whatever, they're printing it. And they spelt it Saragossa, to which proper spelling is
yeah,
Zaragovz,
yeah.
not V, ZA. And so then, by the end of the case, they have published nearly a dozen follow up articles. Thousands of people descend on Gascon de Gotard Street. Just thousands. Crowds outside the building try to hear the voice from the street. People are climbing onto the roof, trying to find a hidden mechanism. People having to clear the doorway multiple times a day. A Barcelona radio station tries to get a microphone installed in the apartment so they can broadcast the voice live. Members of Scotland Yard in England start making plans to travel to Zaragoza. And the voice keeps talking. It's not scared of the attention. If anything, it seems to enjoy it. When the local officials show up and announce publicly they were going to put an end to this circus, it yells, "Cowards! You've called the police!" It shouted out. The governor of Zaragoza eventually called a media blackout, trying to get the story to die down. He brought in a wide arrangement of specialists, which was architects, doctors, investigators. Nobody could find the source. Nobody could explain the voice, and nobody found a person. In a final desperate attempt to stop the phenomenon entirely, they did something remarkable. They had the entire city block isolated. The National Guard was deployed to keep the crowds back, and then the military cut all electrical and telephone wires into the apartment complex. So this means that there was absolutely no power, no communication, and only the investigators were inside. And the voice continued, completely unaffected. And at this point, according to multiple sources, it got angry. It started swearing. It threatened to kill all the members of the Palazon family. And I want to pause on that power cut moment because I think it's one of the most important details in the whole case. This is 1934. There are no wireless transmitters. There are no battery powered speakers that could produce intelligible speech at that volume. Military cut the power and it kept talking.
Yeah. Just
So,
showing that
November,
it's an all natural and, source, it's an all natural. It's not, it's not electrical, it's not, man, it's not like, yeah. That's that's something. That's very scary.
yes. So then on November 25th, after days of constant noise, the voice goes quiet. Hours pass. Then more hours. Police stand down. The Palazon family is moved back in. Everyone holds their breath. 48 hours of silence. And then In a moment, witnesses would apparently not forget for the rest of their lives. The voice erupts. Cowards! 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 Here I am! It was back and it was furious. But then, almost immediately, it settled back into its usual tone. According to Think Anomalous, which I found to be one of the most careful sources in this case, the voice gave everyone present permission to smoke. It said essentially, "Relax, I'm back. You may smoke now." Which, of course,
Smoke if you got 'em.
1930s.
Yeah. Smoke if you got 'em. I mean, that was a popular saying back then. So,
So
uh,
the police resumed their guard, and by November 29th, the Palazon family had enough. They moved out for good. They left Zaragoza entirely. The haunting became completely public. The voice was now performing for investigators, crowds, officials, journalists. It taunted the police. "I am coming! I am coming!" it would say, and then nothing would physically appear. It mocked everyone. Okay, that is not something I wanna hear.
so, did they were they able to record the voice? I know
It
they
didn't they tried, but
okay, it didn't okay.
mhm. So, let's talk about Pasquala for a minute because her story is the one that genuinely angers me. Right, so at this time, Pasquala is 16 years old, and she's a domestic servant. So that means she's working for the family who owns the building. She is the first person the voice ever spoke to, and she will become the person whose life is destroyed by it. Enter Dr. Joaquin Orrera, a psychiatrist brought in as part of the official investigation. His theory was that Pasquala was producing the voice through something he called unconscious ventriloquism. So, not deliberate fraud, not a calculated hoax, unconscious ventriloquism, meaning she was involuntarily throwing her voice without knowing she was doing that, producing a male sounding voice, answering questions correctly, knowing police officers' names, all while having no awareness she was doing any of it. But this is not a real thing. Professional ventriloquists spend years learning to do this deliberately. The idea that a
Yeah.
16-year-old maid was doing it unconsciously, constantly for 2 months is not science. But here's the real kicker. The authorities actually tested it. They sent Pasquala out on an errand and monitored the apartment in her absence. And the voice kept going without her there or in the vicinity. Two Spanish forensic doctors, Anila Mert and Rust O'Hare, formally examined her and produced a document stating, according to the Spanish source, Informe Insolito, that they found no evidence of fabrication in her. They cleared her. The governor announced to the press, anyways, that the culprit had been identified, and he blamed Pascuala. And she was, in the words of one Spanish source, desterrada, exiled, sent to her hometown. She was widely regarded as a fraudster for the rest of her life.
Oh my
She
god.
refused to speak about the incident ever again.
That's
She had been cleared
horrible.
by her own test. Mhm. The forensic doctors cleared her. The voice continued without her presence. None of that mattered. The authorities needed an answer, and a 16-year-old working class maid was the answer that was most convenient and the least threatening. This pattern, finding the most vulnerable person in the room, blame them, close the file, is something that shows up in paranormal cases again and again. So now we go on to December 3rd. The voice, which according to Spanish sources had started issuing threats again, "I will kill all the inhabitants of this cursed house," finally pushed authorities past their limit. On December 4th, officials made a decision that still baffles me. They sent in the building the owner's 6-year-old son, Arturo, who was age 6. They put a small child in front of the haunted stove because that's going to
So wait
fix
a
it all,
minute.
right?
So they're putting a child in like a small vulnerable child in a room with a okay.
It's a haunted, yep,
Yeah.
haunted stove.
Interesting choice. Okay.
Yeah. So then, Arturo, he's sitting there and he's been living in this building his whole life while all of this has been going on, was apparently done. He told the stove and told the voice that the whole situation was crazy. And the voice replied in a slow, guttural tone, "Not crazy, little one." And then it went silent. That was December 4th, 1934, the last recorded communication from the Zaragoza goblin. The official forensic verdict, issued December 3rd, read as follows, and I'm paraphrasing from the Spanish since the original is quoted in Informe Insolito. The voice is due to a psychic phenomenon which only occurs under certain circumstances. Proceedings will be archived today, as no responsible person has been found for the offense. The mysterious event has been completely clarified. Completely clarified, quote unquote. It was not clarified. They didn't find anybody, they didn't find any explanation, and they closed the file and went home.
Mm.
Now, where were the Warrens when they needed this? Well, actually, they were probably only children at that time themselves. So, the Palazon family never returned. Any future tenants of the building apparently reported strange sounds for years, though nothing as dramatic as the original events. 1977, over 40 years later, the original building on Gascon de Couture Street was demolished, and developers who built the new apartment complex on that site made a choice. They named the building Duende,
Yeah.
not not Palazon building, not some neutral name. Duende, goblin. They put up a building and named it after the voice that can't be explained, which is pretty awesome and interesting.
Well, and
Don't
also,
know.
but I mean, the voice wasn't happy with that name, though. I mean, he didn't want to be called, or it didn't want to be called like a goblin.
It didn't say anything really about being called Duende.
Because because I thought you had said like he was not happy about the goblin name, and I was like, oh, like
No,
why would okay,
no, I just went into just what a duende is, the
yes,
possessor, and like the etymology of it. But no, he didn't say anything about his name.
okay,
So could have anybody done this? And let's think about it for a minute because I don't want to just dismiss it like everybody else. The building had multiple floors, multiple families, shared chimney infrastructure, and the voice was heard by the neighbors across the whole building, not just the Palazons. Police officers and official investigators heard it, architects heard it, the London Times journalists heard it. For a single person to pull this off, they would have needed to live hidden in the walls of an occupied residential building for over 2 months, produce a convincing male voice different from all known residents, know the names of the police officers as they entered the building for the first time, correctly answer questions about how many people were in the rooms and the exact measurements, continuing operating after military personnel cut all power to the complex, never ate, never left, never to be found by people who knew every inch of the building. The hidden person theory requires a person with no food, no light, no bathroom, no exit, surviving for weeks inside residential walls while investigators specifically searched for them. The power device theory fails the moment the military cut the power. The Pasquale theory was tested and failed. There are no satisfying explanation for how this was done, which doesn't mean it wasn't done. Absence of explanation is not proof of the supernatural, but it does mean that the smug, obvious, "it's a hoax" response is actually less intellectually honest than sitting with the uncertainty. So, theory one that we have here for the paranormal theories is that this was a poltergeist, which, you know, makes sense. Crashing ghost is what it means. Polter meaning crashing, geist meaning ghost. So, a noisy, disruptive spirit. And what's interesting about the poltergeist cases is that researchers have noticed a pattern. They tend to cluster around specific people, often young women or adolescents under emotional stress, like the Enfield poltergeist. was centered around an 11-year-old girl. The Battersea poltergeist centered around a 15-year-old girl. Poltergeist activity often seems to radiate from a person, not a place. In Zaragoza, who was the voice most focused on? Pasquale, the teenage girl in a stressful, low power situation far from home, working in someone else's house. Think Anonymous makes the interesting observation that, unlike traditional poltergeists, the Zaragoza goblin didn't move objects. It only ever used its voice, which makes it unusual, even by poltergeist standards. Not more or less believable, just different. Maybe it's a subcategory we don't have a good name for yet, possibly. So here's theory number two, a disembodied consciousness. Think Anomalous makes a philosophical argument that I find compelling. The Zaragoza case is evidence that not encounters with the unknown intelligences involve physical beings like angels or aliens. The voice showed intelligence, it showed reactivity, it showed what appeared to be omniscience of its immediate environment. But it never did anything physical. No objects moved, no doors opened. And what does it mean to have a conscious, interactive presence with no physical body? That's a genuinely interesting question that goes well beyond, was there a ghost? If you believe in consciousness can exist independently of a physical form, and plenty of philosophical and spiritual traditions say it can, then what was in that apartment? Theory three is the political explanation. I want to float something here that I haven't seen anyone raise directly, though it hovers around a lot of the Spanish language sources. It is October through November 1934. The Asturian miners' revolution has just happened. Franco just crushed it. The country is terrified and electrified. The press is under enormous political pressure. The governor of Zaragoza, ugh, is trying to maintain order in a city that has recently had tanks in its streets. It is possible that some of the official responses to this case, the media blackout, the rush to blame Pasquale, the tidy office closure without explanation, was less about solving a paranormal mystery and more about not having an unexplained phenomenon become a rallying point for a scared population. I'm not saying the voice was government manufactured. I'm saying that when the authorities had a choice between, we don't know what this is, and we solved it, it was the maid move along in 1934 in Spain. They may have had a strong political reasons to choose the second option, regardless of evidence, which is something to think about. And then, final theory for this is mass hysteria. Some researchers have suggested a collective psychological explanation that the stress of the era, maybe the building's architecture with the shared chimney and the acoustic quirks, and suggestion between neighbors created an environment where normal sounds were heard as something supernatural. Once a few people believed it, everyone else confirmed the problem or the pattern. The problem with this is that in the specifics, people claiming to hear a strange sound is explainable by mass hysteria. People claiming to hear a voice correctly, answer factual questions, and name police officers is harder to attribute to collective suggestions, unless you believe every single witness, including official investigators, were fabricating their stories. And so I just want to bring up that this is kind of a bit like a parallel case that I would love to do, and that would be Jeff the Bataki Mongoose. Have you heard of Jeff the Mongoose?
I have, but I could not tell you I mean, I've heard of it, but I could not tell you anything about it. I'm sorry.
So this is kind of similar around the same time. In 1931, in the Isle of Man, um, there were people, a family called the Irvings,
Mhm.
and they, sorry, they hired a voice as well, and the entity introduced itself as Jeff, and it was spelled Geef, and claimed to be a mongoose. And it said, yeah, and he was sassy, totally sassy. I loved him. Um I don't want to go over it too much because it's like one of my favorite stories because I love sassy Jeff. But and where the only thing that's a lot different is that they say that someone claimed to kill him, to have seen him, and then Jeff hung around for like years as well. So yeah. But that's a story for another time.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Interesting.
you know, the thing is that Jeff had um a character. He was persistent, specific, charming, rude, gave himself a backstory. The Zaragoza goblin was just more reactive. It responded to what was happening in real time. It knew things about its immediate environment, but never introduced itself or explained what it was. Both of them were blamed on young women near them. Both investigations found no physical mechanism. Both ended without explanation. And here's the other thing that's similar with it as well is that both voices stopped on their own and never returned. Just silence.
Okay.
So, what so that really leads to the question, what really was it? Um, so I just want to go over a few things that nobody has ever satisfactorily explained, not the vague things, the specific ones. Like, one, how did the voice know the police officers who were never in that building before? They were complete strangers to the building. It wasn't a case of the voice having overheard conversations over time. These were new arrivals, and it named them immediately. What mechanism, natural or supernatural, can explain that? Two, how did it measure things correctly in real time? The chimney diameter, the wall measurement. And that's
Yeah.
not like general knowledge. That's like specific, like looked over their shoulder before they did it to measure.
Mhm.
Number three, why did it stop? And it's not because of the investigators, not because of the power, not because of an exorcism or the priests, or that it was not given attention. It stopped because a 6-year-old boy told it the situation was crazy, and it said, "Not crazy, little one," and went quiet forever. Like, you think that this little boy hasn't said it before, or, you know, to try and make it stop because maybe the little boy's trying to sleep.
That's just yeah,
So,
I
number
mean,
4
yeah.
number 4, why was no one ever watching when it wasn't there? Future tenants reported strange sounds. Whatever residue of the phenomenon existed, it seemed tied to the building even after all the key players left. 5. Why did the Zaragoza goblin never give itself a name? Never explained itself, never tried to communicate anything beyond reactive conversation. You had the Enfield poltergeist, spoken tongues. Jeff gave a life history. Other famous voice phenomena have given prophecies or messages. The Zaragoza goblin just talked back, like it was just there, living, observing, and present. That might be the creepiest thing of all. So now, with it, the building is gone, it's demolished, and the new building called the Duende is there. The stove is gone, and the files were officially closed in December of 1934. Pasquale went home. Antonio Palazon kept owning the property and presumably kept living. Little Arturo grew up. The police officers who heard their names called out by something had no way of knowing them, presumably told that story at dinner for years. The London Times wrote nearly a dozen articles about it and then moved on. Spain, 2 years later, went into a civil war that killed hundreds of thousands of people. The Zaragoza Goblin became a footnote. Nobody confessed, nobody ever produced a device or a person or a mechanism. The voice was tested without Pasquale's presence, and it continued. The power was cut, and it continued. The building was searched, Nothing was found, and then it said, "Not crazy, little one," to a 6-year-old and stopped forever. I don't know what it was. I don't think anybody does, but I think the things that scare us the most are the ones that feel like they might have been listening all along, curious, watching, waiting to be acknowledged. And when someone finally told them the truth about how weird the whole thing was, they just agreed and left. So, yeah,
I mean,
that is
it's a weird situation for it to leave on, like, for that little boy to say that it's crazy or whatever, and, like, he's like, "No, it's not," and then just to leave, like, I that's so weird, like, one would think maybe, like, he would have left or it would have left, like, when the police were called or but, I mean, a little boy telling it to stop? Oh, that's
mhm,
odd,
yeah,
really odd.
yeah, it really is. My my only other thing that I can think of possibly is aside from a separate consciousness that may
Uh-huh.
have been just like somebody who was lost, before transitioning on, is aliens. Definitely aliens.
Oh,
Trying to figure out what our reactions are at that time in space.
that could be. Never would have thought of that.
I mean, like, they would know what a wireless speaker system is,
Well, I mean, obviously,
you
if
know?
they're traveling through space, they'd have the technology to do, to do things and see things that we couldn't at that point in time. You know.
Right. So, they could have been beaming it down, to, like, a little speaker that they
Yeah,
shoved down the chimney as they hovered over.
that definitely could be. I mean, that's
I know.
yeah, yeah. I never even really thought of that. But that could totally. I mean, that
Yeah.
would totally make sense if it wasn't supernatural. You know, and like if it wasn't like a supernatural entity, if it wasn't, it could very well have been like alienish.
I don't know, 'cause maybe we're just their little test planet. Things aren't going so well right now, so they need to come back and fix it. Fix it.
Yeah, exactly. Come back. Come back.
Either that or come take me and fix me and then send me back.
Yeah. Uh, take us.
Just
God
let
bless.
me bring my cats.
Just don't eat them. Don't be like Alf.
No. No.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
how much I
No.
loved that show?
Oh my God. I was actually just
I
talking about Alf with a friend of mine, because he's watching it too, and because it's on uh, I forget what I forget what channel, but it's on one of the and so he's watching it, and I was like, oh my God, and then I remembered, I'm like, oh my God, he used to eat cats, or he used to want to eat cats or something. They were like, and I
mhm.
forgot about that at first because I was like, oh my God, but
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, that was
oh
one of my
my,
favorite shows as a kid, which is weird, considering how much I was like, "No, don't eat the cat." And,
he
at
was
that age
Alf
too, I
was
was also watching Thundercats.
Thundercat.
Who?
Oh my.
Well, and you have pop culture and or current events for next. Uh, have you decided
Well, I was thinking
what you're
about,
doing?
current events, doing, like, some good news current events, happy
Yeah.
news current events, um, because every time I read current events, I frown and I roll
Yeah.
my eyes, at least current events in this country for the most part, unless it's, like, entertainment, like, but even some of that time, some of those, news stories, you're just like, "Oh." But, I'm think I'm gonna be doing good news, like good current events, like good feel good stuff. So,
Good.
yeah.
So I
So
just spun the wheel and I got oddities and curiosities. Yay.
awesome.
So we'll see what I can pull up on that.
Sounds
But
good.
yeah, I mean, sorry guys, I'm just a bit tired tonight. And and I woke up at, like,
Well,
7.
you had a stressful day, um, brain stressor, like a brain stressful day, like, with having to take your test and everything, and then having to present, and do our so, not that that's stressful, but that was fun, but, your brain was probably just like, "Oh my word, I need to stop now. I need to just, like, shut down. I need to, like, simmer down now, simmer down."
What's that? I don't know what that is.
You know what it's like to just yeah, just like to have that quietness, just mhm.
No, my brain will just keep running until all of a sudden it just shuts down completely. It just overheats, and then I'm like, that's how I sleep.
Oh, geez. Mhm.
Well,
Well
that and also taking progesterone actually makes you sleepy, so I take that at night as part of my HRT. So,
well, at
yeah.
least now you get to kinda, like, hmm, you know, relax a little bit, be with your
Yep,
fur babies.
and probably watch Buffy or Supernatural. I don't know which one yet.
Okay, okay. I started binge watching MASH,
Mhm.
um, starting at season 4. I'm skipping the
Mm.
first 3 like I normally do because yeah, I don't, watch the first 3 seasons. I think they're sexist and, all the men chasing after the women and all the women are seen as a sex object. Yeah, I can't watch the first 3 seasons. To me, they're it's like, fraternity houses. It's like watching, just,
Mm.
not into that, not into that. I'm sure there'll be some
Yeah.
people who argue with me saying, "Oh, that was a good show." Well, fine. Well, yeah, you like seasons 1 through 3, that's fantastic. Me personally, not so much. I started season 4.
Yep, and when you watch something unless you're watching a documentary, you really just wanna watch something to relax to,
Yeah, well,
unless
I
you're
mean
also watching true crime.
well, I bec once again, I'm a very optimistic person, and I don't like to be around a lot of negativity. I'm not a that because the negativity can just gonna bring me down and frustrate me, and so, because of the world is so negative right now and there's a lot of negativity going on in this country and, I like to surround myself with happiness, good thoughts, funny shows, funny movies, because you see enough of it in the news, you're just, you need something to bring you up. So, and also, and Buffy's, I mean, as well, some seasons of Buffy, very funny. Of course, like Joss Whedon said, people love to see Buffy suffer. They love to see her suffer. So, let's just make her suffer, and that's what he just
Yeah.
kinda did mid-seasons here, and then, of course, toward the end of Buffy, things kind of lightened up a little bit again, um,
Yeah,
somewhat.
except for I don't like the whole Spike thing. I'm sorry. I am an angel. I am a angel girl through and through.
Well, I get what they were trying to do, you're not going to end up sometimes with the person who is considered, like, the love of your life, whatever, I mean, like, that those things don't always work out.
Mhm.
I get that, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with Spike. I like Spike. I like the dynamic. I like, but she used him,
And he used
and
her,
well,
and then he became obsessed.
but I think he actually cared about her, but I think it was he did take it too far. He did attack her. He almost tried to rape her. I mean, obviously that's not a good thing. But I think in his own way, I think he did truly love her, but I don't know. I don't know. Like I wonder liked I liked seeing them together. I mean, I wish I mean, they did have that well, of course, Angel tried to kill her though too and was nasty to him when he was and jealous. It's I mean, when you're freaking dating vampires, I mean, that's not normal to begin with, okay? That's just not normal. You're not gonna have a normal freaking relationship. Um, you know, but anyway.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
once again, we're gonna remind you guys to want to well, hopefully next week we'll be able to actually stream video on YouTube. So
that'd be
there's
cool.
that.
That's exciting.
If not, we could always just change the title of the ep the title of the show to two old white ladies.
Hey, thanks. You know, I
Hey,
had when people call in to my work and they get me, I am proud to say that if they mention age, they all say that I sound young. So, that makes me
yeah,
happy. Don't wanna sound old. I don't wanna
that's
sound like
right, I
I'm
still get carded.
40.
So, yes, you'll
41.
be 42.
I'll be 42, okay. I'm 41. Good. I'm 41. I can't remember. I don't know. I've stopped count. I'm like, "I'm in my 40s, whatever, early 40s, early 40s."
Yes, because I'm already 42. So, but you'll be joining my club soon. Hee hee hee.
Yeah,
But,
I you know.
yes. So, yes, we'll be streaming videos soon also. So yeah, you can find us on YouTube. Hit us up on Apple Podcasts or anywhere that you find your podcasts. Share us. Make this an MLM, and actually a good MLM. Let us know if you have any ideas for us, and if you guys ever want, we can do a Patreon if you want to help support us, and then we can start doing merch as well, and maybe do other types of episodes. I know we started one where we would watch Supernatural because Sarah's never seen it, and it's one of my comfort shows. And so, if that's something that you guys want to do as well, let us know. We're open to any suggestions. Um, and I don't know anything else, Sarah. Oh,
Oh,
listener episodes. We want to do listener episodes, so we want your stories. That way we can talk about them. And
yeah.
yeah,
We'll mention you, mention your name if you want us to, we'll say, "Hey, this is, from so and so," and we'll share your stories and we'll comment and, we'd love to hear all the weird, crazy crap that you've experienced or the strange and spooky and supernatural or the weird and the odd or else. I mean, hey, we have no lives. We wanna hear it all. We're 2
we're two
bored old
old
ladies.
ladies.
Oh my god, I just cackled like an old witch. That's great. Um, yeah, so seriously, write us up, text, and then, whatever, on Instagram, reach out, Facebook, email us. Yeah, seriously.
So I guess we'll end the show today. We love you guys, and we hope that you're back and next week for some current events that'll make you happy. And
Feel good current
until
events.
then,
Okay. Bye, guys. We
until
love
then, we
you.
love you. Bye.
Bye.